you might feel a little bit embarrassed at first, but as long as you don't really care too much of what people think, you shouldn't. And some of those side hustles are a little bit embarrassing, I guess. But if you have a particular goal in mind, and Hello everyone, this is Ronan Blue, just taking my daily walk here today. And today's topic would be on how to turn your car into an investment. So a lot of you might think, you heard of how the car is not really an asset. It depreciates in price, and it's a liability. And but you can take those types of liabilities and turn them around if you take a look at your particular situation. And a vehicle would be one great example of this. If you think about your vehicle, I mean, what does it do? It sits in your garage or the side of the street or in front of your house, wherever. It just sits there idle. And it sits there idle roughly about, I would say, 90% of your day, probably more. And it sits there actually doing absolutely nothing for you. And a vehicle, is used to travel from point A to point B. That's all it's good for. That's what it's made for. But yet some people have different types of lifestyles. They want to spend a little bit more and get a car that has more horsepower, go with style, or to, show your status. But if you equate all of that together, other than looking at the car as a depreciating liability, you can also think of it as a means of making money. And millennials and Generation Z, they've been exposed to all of these different apps that they can take advantage of today. And there's this saying that's going around saying that money grows on trees. And it's actually true to a certain degree because of the exposure that the younger generation has to utilize the apps available for them for their side hustles, right? To supplement their income besides the part-time job that they have. So, and one great way is by using ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft. And when we went abroad, there was Grab. And there's a whole bunch of different ones that you can utilize. So that's one great way for you to use your car as a means of making more money. I've heard of people who make like $800 a week just by driving around their car. I mean, there's wear and tear as well on your car. And there's a whole bunch of different YouTubers who actually gave it an attempt just to see whether or not it's worth it to have to, drive people to their destinations without really sacrificing too much of your own, livelihood. So when it comes to paying for maintenance of the car or gasoline, as an example, adding it all together. But it seems the majority of people are happy. And they're dedicated to do so. I mean, there's this one guy who worked and drove around like 12 hours a day for 30 days, just as an experiment. And he actually made over $8,000 in 1 month. That's insane, right? So the possibility is there if you have the discipline there and the motivation to make a little bit more money for yourself and maybe to save and invest. And actually there's companies that actually pay you to test drive cars as well. I believe there's one that's called Bestmark. So you can go ahead and, sign up with them and they will give you the equipment, the car that you test and drive around. So that's another way to make some money as well, test driving. So if you have some extra time, I would totally take advantage of that, especially if you like cars, right? If you're passionate for them and you want to be around them a lot, then take full advantage of that option as well. But another way you can make money from your vehicle would be by simply carpooling, right? Maybe using your own car and then, contacting a whole bunch of your coworkers that work with you that may live around where you live, and then you can fit so many people into a car, at least 4. So you talk to 3 other people that you work with, and then you set them out for them to pay per month, and they save, even if it's a little bit more than gasoline, for example, but you're taking the time to pick them up and drive them around, kind of like a taxi every day for them, and they save money and you gain a little bit. That's another way to do so as well. So there's a lot of different programs like that, even in large cities. In New York, for example, people are doing that. And since you're going to work anyways, might as well, put your car into the best use case possible and loading them up. You might feel like a taxi driver at first, but with the intent for, having your coworkers there to save money, and for you to save a little bit as well on a daily basis. So you can think of it as compound interest from a certain perspective as well, because the more you drive every day, every month, every week, every month, every year, you'll be probably driving for free pretty much. So yeah, so keep that in mind as well, because transportation does cost a lot of money. Of course, there's other alternatives to get to work, like riding a bicycle, and also at the same time while driving your coworkers to work, you'll be building your relationships as well. So that's another key point to think about as well. But another option you have, especially if you love cars and you're good with your hands and you're good with fixing cars, would be to become a mobile mechanic. So you can set up your own app, as an example, or other resources out there. We can get in contact with potential customers, and essentially you'd be there to assist them for minor repairs, I would say. A complete engine overhaul or a transmission change or something along those lines. I'm not a professional mechanic or anything, but anything that doesn't require an actual garage, you can go ahead and dedicate your services to them. So, and you can order the parts for them, and you can order, you can just make it overall convenient for them. That's essentially what you're providing as a service, to make it convenient and to be flexible for their time. And you don't need an actual auto body shop at all. You just need an app or some sort of way to communicate with potential customers, and then to charge them even a smaller fee, right? Because it's essentially just your time that you're giving them, and you don't have to pay for the property tax for your auto body shop either, because the only thing you really have to pay for would be gasoline, a little bit of your time, and you build that face-to-face relationship as well with your potential customers. But another way to make money with your car that sits in your garage 90% of the time doing absolutely nothing would be to put advertisements right on the side of your car, or the front or the back, and just drive into highly populated areas, and just drive around. And there's actually companies that do that, and they will pay you. And it might just be in the form of a sticker, so you just have to stick the sticker on there, and then simply remove it when the contract is over. So how easy is that, right? You just drive around areas and advertise for them. And you might feel a little bit embarrassed at first, but as long as you don't really care too much of what people think, you shouldn't. And some of those side hustles are a little bit embarrassing, I guess. But if you have a particular goal in mind and you're determined to set your own financial goals, then you would do it. So, and another option you have would be in renting out your vehicle as well. A lot of those peer-to-peer car rentals are becoming popular as well. Of course, I'm sure that maybe some of you have heard of peer-to-peer lending as well, where you lend people money and you get interest from it. But essentially that same concept could be applied to renting of your own car as well. So imagine that, like I said, your car sits around for 22 hours a day, pretty much. But some people, they're fine with that. You can actually sign up for those companies as well, or work on your own in renting your vehicle. It could be a really nice vehicle of yours, perhaps, and maybe you went a little bit overboard in purchasing a car that was above your means, but like a Mercedes or BMW, some kind or another. But some people like to show their status, right? And if you do have a vehicle like that, you can advertise it to your customers and have it rented out for a day or two. Maybe it could be for a particular business appointment that they have, and they have to show their status to that client. So they rent your car for a couple hours for that business meeting, just for the show of it. But there's options like that, or you might have a clunker, right? But a well-maintained clunker. Of course, you want to keep your clients very safe, but you can rent that as well, like a Toyota Corolla or something like that, or even Honda, just to let them drive it around from point A to point B, and then select a particular destination for a drop-off of the vehicle at the end of the day. So yeah, that's another option as well. But some people actually have that RV that sits around doing nothing as well, where they spend like $100,000 for an RV that they thought they would be constantly using for their road trips around the country or camping or whatever the case may be. But it ends up just sitting there doing absolutely nothing and eroding. Another same concept of renting out your car, you can rent out an RV as well. So it's definitely going to be seasonal, especially during the spring and summer season. A lot of people are looking for that dream vacation, traveling around the country with an RV. So if you do have an RV, you can go ahead and find a way to rent that vehicle out as well, other than letting it sit there. You can sell it as well, but renting it might be an option for you. In the longer term, it might bring in even more revenue, who knows, depending on how much you charge. But it's really popular right now, especially with the millennials. The millennials are actually spending more on gaining experiences other than purchasing those big American dream houses. Like, they're spending a lot of their extra money on gaining experiences. So I would say that would be a good business opportunity to rent out your RV if you do have one just sitting there idle. But those are just some of my thoughts on how you can make money for that vehicle that's sitting around absolutely doing nothing at all. Like I said, 90% of the time it does nothing. So you can take advantage of some of those options that I mentioned and see if it becomes a moneymaker for you. But if you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.